Hey guys, welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to talk about why frame generation is going to be the future of gaming. We have been promised 4K high FPS a long time ago now, way back with the introduction of the NVIDIA 20 series. And not only 4K 60 FPS and up, but we also got ray tracing introduced, which it definitely looked cool, but performance was trash to say the least, even worse than PS4 gameplay in some cases. The sad truth though is that even today, with the latest and greatest RTX 4090, which costs alone more than a complete gaming PC, unfortunately we still don't have 4K high FPS in all games, let alone 8K 60 FPS advertised from NVIDIA, and let alone if we add ray tracing to that. Oh, and by the way, 4K high FPS in 2023 is not 4K 60, but I call it at least 120 FPS and above. To make things worse, we have also been advertised for the new consoles that can play games at 4K 60 FPS. But we know how that turned out, and let alone talking about ray tracing here. 30 FPS is at best stable in some games at 4K with ray tracing, although we know that with ray tracing enabled we don't have any more 4K, but it is scaled down, but we'll call it 4K ray tracing like it is advertised. So basically we have been promised BS all along. Frame generation is a new technology that uses artificial intelligence to generate new frames in between the ones rendered by the game engine. This can boost the frame rate and smoothness of the games, especially when combined with upscaling techniques, which means that with this new technology we actually might be able to get finally 4K high FPS, basically around 120 or above, and in some cases even with ray tracing on, like we have seen in for example Cyberpunk 2077. I know it is limited to RTX 40 series for now, and you're right, but that is the point of this video, cause this is going to be the future of gaming, and I personally think that this technology will be implemented way sooner than what we think actually, because we know that NVIDIA of course will keep this technology exclusive only to the 40 series for as long as they can, or at least until AMD steps up and releases the highly anticipated FSR 3, because I really think and hope of course that FSR 3 will have frame generation for every GPU that is out there, like the same as we had with FSR 1 and 2 working with all GPUs on the market. The only downside of course for the upcoming FSR 3 actually I think is going to be again the quality of the visuals, because we know that frame generation for now has some weird artifacts because it's new and is basically generating new frames, hence the name, and inserting them into the image, and these are not real frames rendered and worked out from our PC, which means we are going to have artifacts no matter what, especially at the beginning of this technology. And that brings me again to what I said, that this is the future of gaming. The same thing happened basically to DLSS and FSR 1 and 2. They got way better over time, and now we are into a point where we get the same image or better, because we can use high resolution although it's upscale, and we can enable maximum visual settings, all this without losing performance or getting better performance in many cases. The same thing is going to happen with DLSS 3 and FSR 3 from AMD. They are going to be janky at the beginning, but will get better over time. And now we're gonna go a little bit into the boring part of these things, basically the technical stuff, so bear with me a little bit. And I know that you of course have heard already for NVIDIA DLSS 3, which is the only technology available today that can enable frame generation, which technically is a new feature called optical multi-frame generation. This feature uses the tensor cores and a new optical flow accelerator on GeForce RTX 40 series GPUs to analyze two sequential in-game images and calculate motion vector data for objects and elements that appear in the frame but are not modeled by traditional game engine motion vectors. That's why basically NVIDIA says it is specific to RTX 40 series only. Basically, this reduces visual anomalies when AI renders elements such as particles, refractions, shadows, and lighting. Then, a conventional neural network analyzes the data and automatically generates an additional frame for each game rendered frame. This means that DLSS 3 can reconstruct 7/8 of the display pixels with AI, boosting frame rates by up to 4 times compared to without DLSS. Of course, 4 times is a bit too good to be true, but not impossible for the future, of course. AMD also has its own answer to NVIDIA's frame generation, as we mentioned, called frame interpolation, or with the commercial name FSR 3. This technology will arrive with AMD's FSR 3 upscaling platform later in 2023, I think, and I hope, of course. And frame interpolation uses a mix of AMD existing fluid motion technology and motion vectors to produce interpolated frames in FSR 3. AMD claims that frame interpolation can increase frame rates by as much as 2 times. Not as much as NVIDIA claims 4 times, but 2 times. It's totally fine, and it's going to be amazing if they achieve this. And also reduce latency by combining it with upscaling, of course. So why is frame generation going to be the future of gaming? Well, there are several reasons. Frame generation can improve the performance and quality of the games that use ray tracing, which is huge, which basically is becoming more popular and realistic with each generation of GPUs. Frame generation also can benefit games that are limited by CPU or GPU power, because as we mentioned, they insert fake frames. These are not frames that needs to be rendered from your PC, so actually you don't need the power because it's a fake frame entered or rendered between 2 other frames. By reducing the workload basically on both components, CPU and GPU, and of course delivering higher frame rates. Frame generation also can enhance the gaming experience on different platforms and devices, and we hope for that, of course, as soon as possible, such as laptops, mostly consoles, VR headsets also, because it's becoming more and more popular, and of course cloud gaming services by providing smoother gameplay, because that's the most important thing that we want, and of course lower latency for competitive gamings. Also, frame generation, it can enable gamers to enjoy higher resolutions, as we already mentioned, and refresh rates on their monitors or TVs in this case, without sacrificing performance or quality. Of course, frame generation is not perfect, as we already mentioned several times. There are some challenges and limitations that needs to be overcome, but yeah, some of the negative side, let's call it for now, or the holds back for now, basically it requires support from game developers and engines, because we have a very limited number of games that can benefit of frame generation, which may take time, of course, and resources to implement. Frame generation may introduce some artifacts and errors in some scenes or situations, such as fast motion or complex geometry, and of course may not work well with some types of games or genres, such as competitive shooters or fighting games, because as we mentioned, the artifacts and latencies are very important for shooter gaming, where the other games doesn't care too much about the artifacts and latency. But for shooters, of course, and fighting games, accuracy and responsiveness are crucial. However, these challenges of course are not insurmountable. As frame generation technology evolves and improves, we can expect to see more and more games and applications adopting it and benefiting from it. Of course, frame generation is not just a gimmick to say for now, it is a revolutionary innovation that will change the way we play and create games, that is for sure. Hence why I'm making this video basically, and I think I'm a little bit late to the party at this point. Anyway, the last hope I have is that the frame generation, I hope it can be implemented via software, because as we mentioned, as Nvidia says, it is only hardware related. That's why it is limited to the 40 series. But I'm really hoping for FSR 3.0 and some other implementation via software. And that will be the true revolution and future of gaming, because of course more than 90% of gamers can't have an RTX 40 series, and let alone if we find a way to implement that via software to console gaming. That will be the best and the pinnacle of smooth gameplay and a real revolution to the future of gaming, going from 30 FPS to 60 FPS in old consoles, or even in new consoles basically, let alone old consoles, or to a more steady 120 FPS in some games or titles. On new consoles would be huge actually, and I really say hope, because the PCs and new gen consoles is more likely to happen, but for old consoles it's a little bit improbable, but let's hope for that too. So basically, yeah, that's all for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Also, let me know what you think about frame generation. Do you agree with what I said? Do you have something that you don't believe, or you do believe that will happen? Do you think it's really the future of gaming like I do? Have you tried it yourself maybe? So maybe you have real experience with it. What are your favorite games that use it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. So yeah, that was basically it. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.